Hey everybody, what's up? It's Booksy. I had a question from Selene about Articy Draft X, so I wanted to go ahead and see if I can give you guys a quick rundown of how to do your branching dialogue. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on anything else. I'm just going to tell you what I did to set it up, and I think it's easy enough to follow along and get to that point. You shouldn't have to take more than an hour or so, just depending on how tech savvy you are, maybe, and getting this set up. So when you do download Articy Draft X, there's a let me make sure I'm actually recording. All right, I am. There's a couple demo projects, and those are very good for understanding the program and seeing how to set it up. If you do not have any frame of reference, I would suggest you check those out. I'm going to give you an example, which is the one that I did. Obviously, it's the space detective example, and we did in class. So you would want to create a new project from here, from this main menu. If you've already opened up one of these projects, you'll need to kind of close out and then create a new project from here. There are limitations to Articy Draft X, so just keep in mind it limits you to 700 elements. There is a way to find out what those elements are. If you hit the upper right corner, you can see right here, this is your flow and documents. This is your entities, assets, locations. If you go beyond those, you're obviously not going to be able to go beyond those. If you want to go beyond those, you have to upgrade. I didn't use even a fraction of those, I mean barely, for this project. So totally possible to do this for free. So what you're going to want to do is just open the project. You can double click it, or you can do the use it as a right click and select, or you can just create a new project. So this is the project window as it is, and it does resize a little bit here and there, and I've had some issues with the resizing taking like time. I think it's just a matter of the program. I don't think it's your computer. So if your computer's kind of sluggish, my computer's pretty good, and it is a bit sluggish. So anyways, on the left hand side, this is kind of your project window. You should have a tab opened up. You're going to need to kind of create different things before you get started. Some of these are optional, so just keep that in mind. But just to explain generally what these are, the flow is where you want to get to with the branching dialogue. So that's where you're going to have the actual branching dialogue. You can see I've already got mine set up in here, and I'll take you through how to do this in a little bit. The entities, you're going to create at least 2 folders for this particular project. Ideally, you definitely need one, which is you're going to want to create a new folder. There's a little button up here. You just click that, type it in. You're going to want to create a characters folder. Now, if you happen to create a folder and you already have created your entities, the entities are anything in the game, which could be your characters, your items, etc. Those things can be placed in the folder after. I didn't have any problem with that. You definitely want to set up your characters, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. But the reason you want to do that is because when you get to the flow, you're going to have the option to, when you add something in here, like a dialogue bit, a dialogue fragment, you're going to have the option to click the character. And what's great about this is that if you did set up your characters, then when you click it, it'll take you right to that particular character. So I will show you how to do this, but it also does a good job clearly of showing this in the visuals, so you can visually see maybe how that's set up. All right, and you can tell that I'm using to navigate. This is kind of one thing that I find a bit tricky about the program, is it occasionally will let me click and drag the screen, but I couldn't figure out why it wouldn't do it consistently. I thought maybe like Adobe, you can hit like space bar and hold it and move it. That's not the case here. You do want to use anything that you create over here. If you click on it, it will jump to that area. So if I wanted to go back to, like, let's say I'm over here and I can't see the beginning, I can go to the very first one. This is just a way for you to kind of get to where you need to get to. A little bit clunky, but I found it a lot faster than trying to like scroll around. Also in the upper right corner, there's a zoom bar. And we'll get back to this in a minute. But let's keep going on this. And then, like I said, I want to keep this really brief for you. So you don't have to do items. I did do items because I thought I might use them. There was, I think, one instance where I used an item but that's not necessary, I don't think, for this project. I believe I had like a photo evidence thing where if the player were to give away their photo evidence, maybe that triggers an event where the photo evidence is relevant. And it was like a photo of the blaster, and that's how I wrote it in my dialogue. And then I also have the actual blaster itself. You don't have to do that, but I did. And then beyond that, you've got documents. This would be like game documents, game design documents, or maybe found item documents, found object documents. I didn't use it. I didn't use journeys. I did not use template design, but you can use templates in here. I didn't explore that because I didn't find it necessary. I'm sure in the long run that's very helpful, but you won't need it just to set this up. You will need your assets. So for assets, what you're gonna wanna do is, at least again, the bare minimum. I went and found like stock images for somebody that kind of fit this character that I made, Esmeralda, who was this crime boss, and she's this sassy diva of the underworld. And then my detective guy, it looks very generic. I don't really care because, at least for me, I just wanted to have something visually there, and then also just play around with the program. So anyways, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get in here is actually go ahead again back to your entities, and you're going to want to set up a folder for characters, and then you're going to create an entity by clicking this button. It creates a new entry. Once you've done that, it'll look like this. This will allow you to upload that picture. It has to be something that's in this particular folder in assets that I just talked about. So that's why I said you want to go ahead and source a couple generic pictures. There's plenty of stock images out there. You can do a description if you want. I had some ideas for backstory, so I did a description. I didn't do any of these other things like references and templates. Obviously you could, but these were things that would allow you to reference certain nodes, locations would show up. But anywho, these are things that I didn't need for this setup, so I didn't use it. And then it's done. Once it's done, it's saved. You've got the name, the description, the picture. You can have the technical name be whatever. I made it something kind of generic for each one so that I would know what it looks like if I saw it again, but I didn't actually see it often. So I made 2 locations. I don't know why I made 2 locations, but I did. If you're interested in that, it's kind of cool. I made a location for Club Emerald, which is where my event takes place. I use these very basic tools. I mean, I really only use like boxes. I use the box tool to create the boxes and label them. I used this line tool to just draw the pathway of what the player might be. So I labeled it player path right here. I did an event, you know, because that would be where the event is, where you find her booth. She's found in a lounge. This is like a 1970s style space drama, kind of like Star Wars, but I had her be kind of this like female Lando Calrissian character. So I looked at this and I was like, all right, well, I would like to have this just for frame of reference, which is really cool because it did give me like a new insight into my own character. Very easy to make. Again, you just click a box and you would just drag it and then you would just label it, right? And then I think deleting stuff might be the most challenging thing. You kind of have to like right click and delete. I didn't find a hotkey for it, though maybe there is one. I'm also on a Mac, so that could be part of the reason the delete button didn't work. I did make the moon precinct, which is where my detective comes from. Why did I do this? I don't know. You don't have to do it, but it is cool to think about. Like I had an entryway. This would be like your desk. There's a hall to the captain's office, bathrooms, break rooms, fitness center, yada, yada, yada. It's fun. I was just putzing around. Did I need this? No. So let's skip ahead. So to set up the flow, this is the easy part. Well, this is the part you really want to know anyways. So again, if you have your characters set up, this is very simple. There's 2 ways to do this. At the top of the screen, there's these drag down boxes. These can be dragged into, so you can take this and drag it into here and just let it go, and it opens this up. Another way to do it is to right click, and you can add assets this way. But I found this to be the easiest way to do it, is just to drag the dialogue fragment into here. The right clicking comes into factor later a little more. So again, notice that in the beginning anyways, I don't have, and I'm going to zoom in a bit. I'm going to use this to kind of recenter it and just show you. But notice in the beginning, I don't actually have any, I don't have lines on. I turned my lines off, which I can't remember how I did it. Yours is probably going to have a grid. That's fine. I think I turned it off because when I was exporting it, I didn't want the lines on. It's in the menus somewhere. It's probably easy to find. If you just hover over stuff, you'll find it. But anyways, this is really all you need to know. So when you get here, double click this, you'll have all your stuff. This is all the stuff that's presented. So again, maybe I'm starting with her. In this case, I did. You know, she's kind of like questioning why the detective's there in a very like cheeky way. Menu text would be if you have, I think if you have selection. So for example, on these ones, my menu text, we didn't do that in the assignment. We only did it, you would only do it here, but this would be like the two different options. So menu text being like, what does the player see and select? And then the actual dialogue is, what does the character say? So I made the player selects really simple compared to what the character said. So in this case, it's, I need info, I'm just looking, I'm here to take names, which is more like I'm ready to, you know, beat you up or whatever. And then what they say is, I need info, and he says, I'm looking for information about a blaster, right? Or he says, I'm just looking. Maybe I'm just digging, right? I'm here to take notes. I'm sure you have plenty of skeletons I can dig up, right? And it's referring to her comment of, you look like a lost puppy, or a puppy who lost his bone. You know, why are you here, kind of thing. So I'm having fun with it. Anyways, you can resize this if it makes sense to you, but I just kept it small. Honestly, smaller is probably better because our dialogue wasn't that long. So you would just say, if there is an option, something there. This right here is the stage direction. We did do this. So in my case, it was like flirting or whatever, right? Or flirtatious. And then, hi, how are you? Riveting dialogue. My actual dialogue was a whole lot more interesting, but I'm just going to make it simple. So we're gonna, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. So hi, how are you, right? Maybe we just make this like friendly instead. So this is a different, hi, how are you? Just your friendly neighborhood Mr. Rogers weapons dealer. And then you're gonna take this and drag it out. Now, this is where things get kind of interesting because when you do this, it allows you to select conditions, dialogue fragment, flow fragment, hub, and jump. Now, I didn't use a lot of these. I talked a little bit about this one. I'll talk a little about this one in a minute, which is the combat encounter. And then I also did the jump. But what we'll do is we'll just do a dialogue fragment. The reason I don't do dialogue is because dialogue goes back and forth. And for this case, in this case, because it's branching, I just wanted to do, like it includes, dialogue includes both parties. I just wanted to do dialogue fragment. And then I would select the character that I want to respond. Now, there is one other option here, which is to left click on, like, for example, this. Okay, it's not working right now. Let me do it over here. Excuse me, right click on this, whatever, left click, right click, whichever. And you get these split ones. But the thing is like, I did this and I was not able to successfully have it come up. So if this works for you, great. I don't know why, but it doesn't work for me. I'm not sure if it's maybe because it's the free version or what. But what did work just fine was just going back to this original thing and just dragging again. And it totally works fine. So it's a little bit of a pain. And I accidentally didn't like label it, but that's okay. But you can do this like very quickly. And honestly, like when I'm entering mine, we did it on that spreadsheet. So I just set them all up and then, and I messed up here because I didn't select the guy. I just set them all up and then that was that. Okay. I did color code mine, pretty easy to do. You just go to the color and you just pick a color, right? You can, if you want, color the background on these things. There's just different options for different things. So I wouldn't go too crazy on it, but like you can do that. And if you select, I believe it's different if you select the name, but I had color coded mine on my paper, so I went ahead and color coded it the exact same way. You don't have to do that. Obviously, if you didn't color code it, I'm going to do it for the example because I'm going to show you different outcomes. So again, hi, how are you? Maybe let's just do happy. We're going to pick really generic stuff. Sad, angry, angry. Sad is I will say I've been better. I've been better. Not particularly thrilled. Happy is great. How's about yous? How's about yous? No, I'm just kidding. How about you? Let's not do that. That'd be stupid. All right, and then angry, we would just select like, how are you? Pissed. All right. So, don't know. Again, who cares? Move on. So in this case, we're going to talk about the outcomes here. So you can have it do the exact same thing where this goes to another dialogue fragment, such as Esmeralda dialogue fragment. So this would continue the conversation. And then again, you could have the branches from there. That's basically what I did on the main project. Let's say in this case, if you go to pissed, it does a battle. So I actually have outcomes in mind which are battle related. And in this case, what you would do is you do like a combat encounter. And combat encounter, it doesn't really have to mean anything. You could just say that, in this case, I'll do Esmeralda. I can't even spell my own character's name. Esmeralda attacks. I don't know why she would attack you for that. If you want, you can have multiple things string to the same outcome. You just drag the line and then they string to the same outcome. That's totally fine. I wouldn't do that for a few reasons, but in this case, but another option is to have it loop back. So at the very end of the conversation, I did include some jumps. This is kind of neat. So what it does is it says it jumps to, and then where does it jump to? And then it would jump back to, hi, how are you? So it jumps back to your choices, right? So it jumps back to this place and it lets you select again. So in this case, this is a very short chain, but it allows you to continue the conversation, go back, reset, or start a fight. All right, pretty straightforward. Now, all of this stuff, obviously, when you're doing yours is going to be different because you're going to have different potential outcomes. I did have, I'm going to just click one in the middle here, just kind of jump over here. I did have several that went to the battle outcomes. And when I got to the end of this project, what I did is I looked at this particular zone. So I looked at this response, 1, 2, 3 to the first response. And I took like a screenshot essentially, or an export of that right here. So I took like a screenshot of like all these together, and then I would move this up so you could tell visually. I would do all of these together so you could see visually like how this was going to flow into the combat. And then I would just, oopsie, oh no. And then I would take this and move this up. So again, you can see that. And so I have one in each of these goes to a combat, which is like a failed state. One in each of these goes back to this one to give you another chance to answer correctly. So one of them is kind of like a do-over. One of them is a battle, and one of them is a complete. Now for the complete one, what I did is I did one called player success. Yeah, so I created a new dialogue basically where it would continue. And that's where I picked the blaster picture to just show like, yeah, this is you being successful. You sit down with her. Is kind of my goal, was that she would invite you to sit and talk, and then you would have that dialogue. So I actually just did the dialogue. And in this case, I picked that picture of the blaster just again. I didn't end up using the picture, which was the evidence picture. Even though I have in the thing that he pushes the picture across the table, he says, cut the crap, puts the picture, it slides it across the table, and she pushes it back. I didn't know how to include that here. I'm sure you could figure it out. But on the basic most basic level, this is the easiest way to set it up. So again, all you need to do is create your two characters for the back and forth. You do not have to create their locations, but I guess if you wanted to use this for more than one thing, you could. And then you can, if you want to, do the menu text for everybody, but I didn't do it for the NPC because there wouldn't be any menu text. And that's it. When you're done, you can export in different ways. I had no real love of the way it exported to a screenplay, which is right here. The XPS was basically just a graphics file. If you don't know what an XPS is, it's kind of something you could use in like Adobe Illustrator or something. It is an image file. It works fine enough. I honestly just did screenshots. I zoomed in on the areas that I wanted and just took screenshots because it creates a PNG, and that's what I did. I just really didn't like the screenplay. You're welcome to try it. I didn't find it to be particularly useful. Anyways, that's it. Pretty straightforward. Once you're done, you can save it and all that jazz up at the top. And that's really all you need for this. So hopefully that helps you guys get set up. Quick rundown. It's really not super complex, so just do it simply if you need to do it, and you can make it look pretty decent. Just space it out and you'll be good to go. Wish you all the best.